My name is Frank Hyder. I'm an artist. I live here in Miami, Florida. I'm originally from Philadelphia. I grew up in the Philadelphia area. I went to school at the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore. Jeff Koons was 2 years behind me in art school, and uh, I I was surround. It was a very creative place when I was there. Uh, uh, John Waters was making pink flamingos in my neighborhood. My roommate ended up marrying the egg lady from that film. I mean, Baltimore was a strange, peculiar place with immensely talented people who had come to an art school that was run really by artists. The president of the college had shown at the Museum of Modern Art. The faculty were the best of Hans Hofmann's, best of Joseph Albers, and the best of Richard Diebenkorn students. It was a dynamite place to be. And so I was very happy there. But uh, I had, for the first time in my life when I went to art school, I was in a place with other people who looked at the world the way I did. Coming from a small town outside of Philadelphia, it was a very traditional Europe Protestant American city. There was no synagogues, there was no Catholic church. It was very white bread and very plain. And in my memory, growing up there, everybody thought it was an idyllic place and what a wonderful place to live. But when I left there to go to college, I discovered it was, there was this coded racist character. There were all of these code words that everybody understood, no one ever challenged, which were programmed against, it was a I didn't like what I saw and I wanted to have something different. And when I got to Baltimore, I found all of these things that really excited me. And I said, these are the things that I've been missing in life. So when I was in my sophomore year, where I should have been, and what I would do is I would go to school in the morning at 8 o'clock, and I just would take my classes. And then when those classes was over, I'd wander around the school and I'd find another class where they were painting or drawing. And I'd just go in there and would let me. And the teacher would come by and look at what I was doing and said, "Hey, I'll put you on the list if you want to come back and you can take this class." So anyway, I managed to have by the time of my sophomore year, I realized I might, in fact, have enough credits that I could get out of this school ahead of time. And especially if I went to summer school at one of the liberal arts colleges, I could fill up all my liberal arts requirements to take a full semester of academics to fill up my roster. So anyway, I was doing this in my own head in my own way. Nobody was questioning me. And I applied for the Yale Norfolk program, which was available only to juniors. So I get called into the office of the chairman of the painting department, and he said, "Look, um, you you were our pick for the Yale Norfolk." He said, "But then when we did the investigation, we discovered you can't get it because you're only a sophomore and it's only available to juniors." I said, "Yeah, but I'm not going to get to be a junior because I think I'm going to be able to graduate." He said, "That's not possible." I said, "Yes, it is." And he went over my transcript. He says, "Yeah, maybe you might be able to pull this off." So the next thing I know, I'm in this kind of in this, thing with the school. But meanwhile, there was a graduate student who was at the Hofberger School studying with Grace Hardigan who saw my paintings. And she said, there's this place in Philadelphia that has these people that your work belongs in. And I had never heard, I knew who Alex Katz was, but I really didn't know who knew Neil Welliver. I didn't know any of those people. So on her advice, I just applied to the University of Pennsylvania for the graduate program, and I sent an application to Tyler, two schools in Philadelphia, because somehow or another she had convinced me Philadelphia was like a center of painting that I might be interested in. And then I got a letter from Tyler telling me they wouldn't accept me, but they would accept me at their Rome program if I wanted to go there. And then I get a letter from the University of Pennsylvania telling me they would accept me. So now the Maryland Institute had a problem because I was being accepted at graduate school and I was 2 years ahead of time. So that was kind of how I got started. But I kind of was, I've got the first person I dealt with in graduate school was I had an hour-long critique with Alex Katz. And that was the level everybody I was working with there was. And um, it was a powerful experience. And that's how I got started. And I felt that my approach to the world made sense, which was I was designing my own future, so to speak. I had already broken the system and had moved ahead just because I butted in line. And while I was there, they seemed to think I had something to offer. And Neil Welliver walks into my studio one day and says, "You're my pick for the Skowhegan School." And I said, "Well, I don't even know what that is." And he said, "Well, it's a great place." And I said, "I don't, why would I want to go to Maine? That sounds like a terrible idea." And he said, "Well, it's your business. You've got my support." So I called Alex Katz on the phone and I asked Alex what he thought. And I didn't know that he had gone there. I just talking to him as this guy who came in and trashed my paintings every 2 weeks, you know? And so anyway, he said, well, I'll give you an idea. He says, why don't you write them and tell them you won't come unless they give you 100% support. You're not going to pay a dime, nothing. You want everything covered. So I said, okay. So I put together a sheet of slides and I sent them with that letter. And then I got a letter back and they said, we'll give you 100% support. We want you to come. So that was how my began. So I really felt like I could do whatever I wanted. It was a kind of a misinformed beginning, if you know what I'm saying. But I knew that where I was and what I was doing was exactly where I wanted to be. It was everything about it made sense. It was not a career. It was like a vocation. It was like I had been called to something that was the only thing that made sense. And that was the beginning.